A very good morning to all of you students. Students, we have started chapter number 4 from the diary of Annie Frank from your book, uh, The First Flight. And the author of this chapter again is Annie Frank only, because it is an excerpt from her personal diary only. So, this chapter is a part of Annie Frank's diary. Here, she tells us about the early days of her life. She says that she decided to start writing a diary because she did not have a friend. She had a sister 3 years older to her. She lived in Frankfurt until she was 4. Her father immigrated to Holland in 1933. Annie Frank was sent to the Montessori school and stayed there until she was 6. She started going to school in the first form. When Annie was in the sixth form, her teacher was Mrs. Cooperus, the headmistress. Both had a great love for each other. Annie had no one in whom she could confide the feelings of her heart. She could not find anybody whom she could tell the things and feelings of her heart. So she decided to make her diary her friend only. She called it Kitty. On Saturday, 20th June 1942, Annie Frank made her first diary entry. She was in the form of it was in the form of a letter and was addressed to her diary Kitty. Annie describes her experiences with her mathematics teacher, whose name was Mr. Keesing. Annie writes that one day Mr. Keesing punished her for talking in the class. He gave her extra homework. He asked her to write an essay on a chatterbox. Annie wrote it, but she again talked in the class. Now Mr. Keesing asked her to write an essay on incorrigible chatterbox. Mr. Keesing liked the essays written by Annie Frank because she was quite expressive. Otherwise, she didn't have a friend. That was another matter. Uh, so Annie could not give up the habit of talking still in the class. So as a punishment, Mr. Keesing asked her to write an essay on an unusual title. That was Quack, 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 said Mistress Chatterbox. This was sort of sarcasm on the little girl, and Annie wrote this essay in the form of a poem. It was about a mother duck and the father swan. The father bit the 3 ducklings to death because they quacked too much. It was a satire now by this girl on Mr. Keesing, the teacher, the maths teacher. But he took the joke in the right spirit. He took it in a right way. He read the poem to Annie's class and other classes also. He allowed Annie to talk in the class now and never again gave her extra homework. So there was no further misunderstanding between the child and the teacher. So this extract is an excerpt from the personal diary of a 13-year-old Jewish girl who witnessed the horrors of the Nazis' rule at the time of the World War II. She wrote this diary while hiding in an attic you all know, with her family and 4 others in Amsterdam during the German occupation of Netherlands. Attic is a place which is there in a room. It's a store kind of thing where people put things, no? So this excerpt is not a traditionally recorded diary, but it is an insight into the thoughts of a young girl and her ability to write creatively. This girl, Annie Frank, she considers diary writing to be a strange experience. She gives 2 reasons for this. Firstly, she has never written anything earlier, and secondly, she thinks that neither she or anyone else would be interested in the thoughts of a teenager. Means she was not finding anybody to, to be optimum for her to share her feelings. However, she feels an inner compulsion to write, so she decides to pen down her thoughts. Pen down means to write her thoughts. One day, when Annie was feeling unhappy and she was depressed, she recalled the saying that paper has more patience than people. Yes, she continued to brood about this thought and concluded that it was actually a right thing. She decided that she would not let anyone other than a true friend read what she would write in the stiff bagged notebook. That was her diary. Means stiff bag means the notebook which has a stiff covering. Actually, she was writing everything in the notebook. It was not actually a diary, but whenever we write anything, any thoughts, that is known as diary writing only. She records that the reason which prompted her to write a diary is that she does not have any friend. Since she didn't have any friend, so that is why she opted to write her thoughts in the diary only. Clarifying the absence of a true friend in her life, Annie says that she might have seemingly friendly people around her, like she had loving parents, a 16-year-old elder sister, 35 friendly people, and loving aunt. She had a big family, but a true close friend was missing for her. She could only talk about ordinary things to these people. Means she was just sharing a formal relation, but she could not share intimate secrets with any one of them. Now she accepts that her reserved nature prevents her from having any cold friends. She now decides to write a diary as she feels that her nature is not likely to change. She is quite introvert and she is not able to be happy in when she's acquainted with people. She's not getting along very nicely and she's not able to confide with anybody else. So that is why she opted to write a diary. She now considers her diary to be her imaginary long awaited friend. And what does she call her diary? She names her now Kitty. She also resolves to adopt a novel method of writing because nobody would understand a single word of what she writes if she begins writing straight away. So she gives a brief sketch of her family in the beginning, and she shares about her family with this diary. Annie writes that her father is an adorable man and had married her mother when he was 36 and she was 25. Means they had 11 years of age difference. Her elder sister Margaret was born in Frankfurt, Germany in 1926, and she herself was born on 12th June 1929. She lived in Frankfurt until the age of 4, and in September 1933 her father emigrated to Holland accompanied by her mother, Edith Hollander Frank. Meanwhile, Annie and her sister were sent to Aachen to live with their grandmother. However, in December that year, her elder sister joined her parents while she reached later on Margaret's birthday. In Holland, she was admitted to the Montessori nursery school, giving an interesting description of her school life. Annie makes a special mention of Mrs. Cuperus, her teacher in the sixth form and the headmistress of the school. Means that lady was teaching her also, and simultaneously she was doing as headmistress of the school. She was so dear and attached to her that they both had a tearful farewell at the end of the year. When we have a great bonding with someone, we truly feel sad when we are apart from that person. So same thing happened with Annie also. Annie's grandmother fell ill in the summer of 1941 and had to be operated upon. So Annie had a simple birthday celebration that year. She didn't celebrate much. Sadly, her grandmother died in January 1942. Remembering her fondly and lovingly, Annie's birthday celebration in June 1942 had a candle lit for her grandmother along with the rest. She was quite emotionally attached, so she did not like to celebrate much on her birthday. She just remembered her grandmother by lighting a candle in her memory so that she rests in peace, and she just remembers her grandmother. Annie next writes about June 20, 1942, an account of her classroom experiences. She writes in her diary that her entire class was terrified and nervous because the school teachers were going to have a meeting to discuss the annual results. However, Annie and her friend Jean had a hearty laugh at the two boys sitting behind them, Cian and Jacques. These boys had put at stake their entire holiday savings betting their respective results. Their silly arguments irritated Annie, but neither her angry outbursts nor her friends' pleading glances had any effect on the boys. Here, Annie recalls her observation that her class had quite a few dumb students, and nearly a quarter of the class needed to be kept back. She also observes that teachers are the most unpredictable creatures because you cannot, judge about them. You cannot predict their nature. At one moment they will be very nice, modest, and the other moment they can shout on the students, right? So the results could not be guessed. She always thought that results are just the according to the nature of the teachers, and teachers are always unpredictable, so result can also not be judged and guessed. So Annie was not worried about herself and her girlfriends. She was sure they would make it to the next grade, that they would definitely be passing and they would be promoted to the next class. Although she was a bit doubtful about mathematics, they all waited patiently and tried to encourage and cheer up each other. Annie was quite friendly with all her teachers except the old Foggy, Mrs. Mr. Keesing, her mathematics teacher, who always remained angry with her because of her talkative nature. He warned her constantly to give up this habit. When all his warnings failed, he punished her by assigning extra homework. Annie was asked to write an essay on a chatterbox first. She did not know what to write but noted down the topic and tucked it in her bag. After that, she tried to remain quiet in the class. So, students will carry on with the chapter tomorrow, and till that, you revise the chapter till I have explained here. So, listen to the module and have a wonderful day ahead. God bless you all.